All right, Senator, first off, obviously, you did the town hall with I think 5,000 residents the other day. Obviously, you're here today. And just for, the readers or people, that might have not known you were doing this, just kind of talk about just the stories that, you've been hearing from these people about how the shutdown and just the overall state of the government has been impacting their lives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I met with a number of different people here. First, I've talked with people that are really struggling with affordability right now. A lot of challenges that they're facing, particularly when it comes to healthcare. And a couple of people I talked to, they get their healthcare through the ACA marketplace. They're really concerned because they're hearing and seeing all the information that the monthly premiums that they're going to have to pay could be double, potentially triple what they are paying now because of the reduction and the expiration of the subsidies and support. So that's something that I'm hearing. I mean, like, look, there's an estimated 4.5 million people around the United States that could very well lose their health care. Over 20 to 24 million Americans could potentially see their increases double. I mean, that is outrageous. So that was really powerful to hear. I remember one woman in particular, she said something that stuck out to me at the end. She said, she's like, this is our money. It's the American people's money. That's what the budget of the United States is. That's not something that can be just thrown out there and used for political partisan purposes. And especially when we're seeing some of these efforts right now that are trying to punish New Jersey and other states because the president thinks we are disagreeing with him. I also met with some federal workers. I myself used to be a federal government employee, and I worked through multiple shutdowns. I didn't get a paycheck during those shutdowns. It was really tough on me and others. So I wanted to check in on these federal workers and just see how they're doing. And look, I mean, they're nervous. They're really nervous about what comes next. Some of them are saying, or especially some of their younger, newer colleagues that they're just starting out. They're not getting paid a whole lot. They got families. I remember during the last shutdown in 2019, we had people from the Joint Military Base up the road having to go to a food pantry to be able to get some extra help because they were struggling with their bills. So I just want people to remember, like, there are people really struggling right now. People that are hurting because of this shutdown. And I hope that we can keep that in mind and think through, what comes next.
I mean, just in your mind, what's it going to take to end it? What do you and your Democratic colleagues, just what do you want to see, just to end this?
Yeah, well, first of all, we need real negotiations. And that is not something that we had. I mean, we've been calling for negotiations since the summer. President Trump didn't actually sit down with congressional leaders until the day before the shutdown deadline. Like that, like, what good is that? Like, the American people, what they want, and I heard this from people, they said they want adults in the room that are going to sit down with each other, listen to each other, even if they have disagreements, and stay in that room until they come up with an agreement. Yesterday, I was in the Senate. I actually talked with Republican and Democratic colleagues of mine. We talked as a group about where we're at, and we didn't all agree with everybody, but at least we were talking to each other, and I could get a sense of where people's heads are at. That was good. But I will say, while that was happening, on the other side of the Capitol in the House of Representatives, the door was locked. They were not even there. They didn't even bother to show up to work because Speaker Johnson gave them all the week off. So while the American people are deserving of people actually negotiating and sitting in the room, the House of Representatives, they didn't even bother to show up to work. And you want to know what is particularly offensive is right now, our troops, our public servants, they're not getting the paycheck. None of them. Our troops abroad and military bases abroad, they're not getting the paycheck. But the president and members of Congress are getting paid right now, even if they're not bothering to show up to work. And that is just so offensive to me, which is why I said, I'm gonna forego my paycheck for as long as this, shutdown continues on. I'm gonna show solidarity with our federal government employees. So, that's something that I just want to make sure people see is just like, we need to actually show up to work and do this and have these negotiations for us to be able to solve this problem.
Last thing for you too, do you have any kind of sense of when this might end, or it's just kind of everything's just all up in the air, right?
No, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say for certain when this is going to end, but I will say it's not going to end on its own. It's not going to end unless we actually talk to each other and negotiate. So, I came up here because we didn't have votes today, but we have votes tomorrow. I'm heading straight back down to DC today. And I'm going to stay there and continue to try to engage and talk and see if we can find an off-ramp to this that will, try to make sure that people who have challenges when it comes to affording health care and cost of living, that they can get support that they need. Because as that woman said, this is the American people's money. And we need to make sure that it's going to the right places and helping them. The last thing I'll just say is, look, when we finally come up with an agreement, we need to know that a deal is a deal. And that this is not going to be a situation where we pass this agreement in Congress and then the president doesn't uphold it. And we've seen a number of times where the president has not done what Congress has instructed him to do when it comes to the budget. The Constitution gives the right to set the budget to Congress. That is not something that is negotiable with the president. The president has to be able to agree upon that and follow through on the Constitution. So that's what we're hoping to do.